Shalom Aleichem. Mishnah continues for the 24th day of Kislev. It's Erev Chanukah. Freilich Chanukah. Hag Sameach to everybody. We are in chapter 12 of Yevamot, Mishnah Vav. This is the Mishnah we've been waiting for. It goes through the procedure of Halitza, mitzvat Halitza. The mitzvah of Halitza, Bahu v'yavimto, the Yavam and the widow come lebeitin, to the court. That's the ideal thing to do. We've seen in previous chapters, if people don't come to the court and talk to the rabbis, they can make some serious mistakes with Yibam and Halitza. Hen masin lo eitzahug, and it's low. And the rabbis, the sages on the court, they talk to the people involved. They figure out what's appropriate here. If it's better to do Yibam, better to do Halitza, maybe there's an age difference, maybe the personalities aren't going to mesh. So we see that Yibam and Halitza, it's really something to involve the family, all of the brothers, talk about it first, involve the local sages, the rabbi who knows the people involved. It's really something that we do as a community. Shenemar, because it says, V'kiru lo zikne'iru v'dibru alav. The elders of his city, they call to him and they speak to him, meaning they give the proper advice. The heel merits, and she says, now this is if they go through with Halitza, she says, Me'ein Yevami lahakim lachiv Shem Yisrael. My Yevama, the surviving brother, he refuses to uphold to his deceased brother a name in Israel. Lo ava Yibmi. He does not want to go through with Yibam with me. Behu Omer, and the Yavam responds, Lo havatzti lekacha. I did not want to marry her. L'shon kodesh hayu omrim. They have to say it davka in Hebrew. V'nigsha Yevim to Alav, and the widow approaches the Yavam, the brother, Leinea Zikanim, in front of the elders, that's the court. The Halitza na'alo me'al raglo. She removes the shoe from his foot. The Yarka befanav, and she spits before him, not on him. Rok hanire ledayanim, a piece of spit which is visible to the judges. The Anta, the Amra, and she answers, speaks up. Kacha yesei, thus shall be done. Lisha lo yivne et beit achiv, to a man who does not build the house of his deceased brother, meaning provide for him offspring to continue his chelek in Klal Yisrael. Adkan hayu makrin, and that's as far as they would read from the verses. When Rabbi Harkinas was leading a chalitza ceremony, tachat ha'elah, under they translate Allah as a terebinth or an elm or an oak. This is the same giant tree where Yaakov buried the destroyed Avodah Zarah after the issue with Shechem on his way into Eretz Yisrael. We might speculate they're under this giant well-known tree to publicize the event. B'Kfar Etam, in his town of Kfar Etam, Gomret Kol Parsha. He continued with the next verse. Hochsaku, so they established a minhag, a custom liyot gomrim Kol Parsha, to conclude with the following verse: V'nikra shmo b'Yisrael beit chalutzanal. The Yavam who did not do Yevama, he did Chalitza instead, he will be called the household of the one whose shoe was removed. The Mishnah explains, mitzvah b'dayanim. The judges should announce this. Lo mitzvah b'talmidim. Not the students who are sort of the assistants and the junior rabbis on the court. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, mitzvah kol ha'omdim shamlo. Rabbi Yehuda says everyone should say it. Chalutz hanal, chalutz hanal, chalutz hanaal. Repeating this phrase 3 times, it really ingrains it in the people there and sort of publicizes it as well. Mazel, let's start chapter 13. Beit Shammai Omrim, Ein Mima'anin Ela Arusot. We only Miun, or allow for Miun, by a marriage that was Arusa only, the first stage of marriage. Beit Hillel Omrim Arusot Unasuyot, both the first stage after Kiddushin or the second stage after Chuppah. Now, Miun, we've mentioned before, it literally means refusal. And the matzav is a father may marry off his daughter at a young age, though the Gemara in Kiddushin says, don't do that, wait till she's old enough. There's a Taisvos on Kiddushin, Daf 41, who explains during the Crusades, sometimes it was necessary to save the lives or the dowry of the family. Understand, during the Crusades, the Crusaders were murdering or robbing their way across Europe to get to fight the infidels. Another time in Jewish history that underage marriage was encouraged was in Yemen, when the local non-Jews would often kidnap and violate girls who were not married, but ones who were married, even if they weren't really living with the husband, they had a marriage contract, or they showed them a ring or something, they were safe. But what if the father of this girl is not in the picture? So she can enter a rabbinic level marriage under the auspices of her brothers or her mother. They can basically marry her off for her own protection, for her own good. maybe to save her life even. But since this is only rabbinic level marriage, our sages gave her an out, and that out is called Miun. If she grows up, she's bat mitzvah now, she does not want to continue the marriage, all she does is Miun. She basically walks out, and it's as if that marriage never existed. After all, it was only rabbinical, not biblical. So this Mishnah is going to start to explore the rules and regulations of Miun and this type of marriage. Continuing, Beit Shammai Omrim Bebal below Yavam. The young woman can refuse her husband, that was a rabbinic marriage, but not his brother if he passes away. Beit Hillel Omrim Bebal Uvayavam. That she could refuse either one, meaning if her first husband had passed away and now she's bat mitzvah, then instead of going through Yibam or Halitza, she can do Miun and basically undo the legal effectiveness of that original rabbinic marriage, so she was never really eligible for Yibam or Halitza. And that's something we mentioned actually in the very first Mishnah, talking about the co-wives in chapter 1. Beit Shammai Omrim Befonav, he says Miun has to be in front of the husband, to his face. Beit Hillel Omrim Befonav Shelo Befonav. It could even be not in front of him. She can go to court and say, I want out of my marriage without even the husband present. Beit Shammai Omrim Bebeitin. Beit Shammai says it has to be in court. Beit Hillel Omrim Bebeitin Shelo Bebeitin. Here this means Beit Shammai requires 3 expert judges who are very knowledgeable, and Beit Hillel says any 3 people will do. As we had by Halitza also. Could be 3 even if they don't have smicha, if they're not ordained. Amr lehen Beit Hillel Beit Shammai. Beit Hillel said to Beit Shammai, B'ma'enetz v'hi katona filu arba v'chamisha pa'amim. She can do Miun, and if she's still a katana, she's still under bas mitzvah, she could even do it 4 or 5 times. Meaning she had a rabbinic marriage, and she walked out of it, Miun. Then she entered another rabbinic marriage because she's not a gedola yet. Of course, if she's old enough, if she's mature, bat mitzvah, she can accept a marriage proposal from a man, a kedushin, and that's a biblical marriage. But assuming she's not yet bat mitzvah, she could technically be married rabbinically and then walk out again. Amr lehen Beit Shammai. Beit Shammai responded to this, Ein benot Yisrael hefker. Jewish girls are not, up for grabs. It's not appropriate. El memenit umamtenit ad. She can do 1 miyun and then wait until she's a gedola and get married and get divorced on a biblical level. Utmayan, or she can do a miyun to her first rabbinic marriage, vitinose, and then she can get married again, but she can't do a second miyun again. She would have to wait until she's a grown up and actually get a divorce. And to reiterate, the Gemara in Kedushin, Daf 41, it says, don't marry off your daughters when they're young, and it was only in extremely extenuating circumstances at the height of the Crusades, with great risk to life and property, and during certain Arab countries where the locals would abduct girls, when it was really done for the protection of young Jewish women. Yasher Koach, happy Hanukkah, and sei gesund.